Hello everyone, welcome to Ponderings of the Priest and Happy Lent. Today I'd like for us to ponder together what it means for us to let the light in, what it means for us to let the light of God into our hearts and into our souls over this period of Lent. And there's a story of a man who was held wrongly imprisoned for 20 years, over 20 years. And the prison was a very dark and dank place, and it was a very unhappy place. And he got through the years, days and years, as best as he could, and sort of adjusted to prison life, despite the fact that he was unhappy and he was miserable. There was rarely sufficient food. And one day, his jailer came and unbarred the doors of his prison cell and said, "You're free." And the man looked at the jailer and he said, "What?" He said, "You're free. You can come out now. They have wrongly imprisoned you and you are free to go." And he said, "Can that be?" And he said, "Absolutely. Just all you have to do is walk out of this cell and walk into freedom." And so the man cautiously came to the front of the gate and he peered out and he looked around, and the light hurt his eyes as he began to step out, and he wandered out into the town where the prison was, and the light blinded him and the noises confused him, and he didn't know what to do with his freedom. And after about 3 days of this, he went back to his jailer and walked right back into his prison cell and said, "Lock the door. I want to stay here." How many of us live our spiritual lives that way, where we feel separated from God, where we feel like we're in the dark spiritually, where we're suffering, we don't know what to do, and yet, despite the fact God calls us out of the darkness into light, which is what Lent is all about, is finding the things that imprison us, the things that keep us in the dark, the walls that we build that keep us from God and other people. Rather than be free of that, rather than stepping into the light to see what marvels and wonders and freedoms God has in store for us, we walk right back into those cells because we're more comfortable with our discomfort. We're more comfortable in our unhappiness because it is familiar to us. And this Lent we are called to let the light in, to step out into the light, to break out of our prisons and to break down the walls that separate us from God and from one another. There is another true story of a man who I met, who had been imprisoned, rightly so, had been sentenced and imprisoned for at least 15 years for a crime he had committed. And the prison culture was that you didn't talk to anybody and you didn't engage with anybody, and he had some very high walls. And so when he came out and people were friendly, he didn't know what to do. And as he began to realize that people were sincere and they genuinely wanted to help him and that they really wished the best for him, which is what God wishes for all of us, he began to let his walls down and he began to let people in. And he said to me, he said, "But what I discovered as I put my walls down and I let people in, I let myself out at the same time." How many of us imprison ourselves? What are the things that keep you in the darkness? What are the things that imprison you? What are the walls that you build that keep God and everyone else out? This Lent, we are invited to step out into the light, to hear Jesus say to you, "You're free to go. Step out, be free." But until we name those things that separate us, we will never be able to do that. And until we trust that God will guide us into the light, we will return to our prisons once again. Be free. Let the light in. Have a wonderful week, everyone.